My name is Jorge Ayala. I am Mexico City born. I graduated from the Architectural Association in 2008 and my office is called Aya Studio.
I'm Alisa Andrašek and I'm a director of Biothing, my design research practice, and also another practice, Bloom Games, that is just initiated last year. I'm also directing a postgraduate program in kind of design research and architecture at the Bartlett at UCL in London.
My name is Andrew Cudlis and I'm the principal of Matsis, an architecture firm based in Oakland, California. I'm also an associate professor at the California College of the Arts in San Francisco.
My name is Oliver David Krieg. I'm a research associate and PhD candidate at the Institute for Computational Design, the ICD, in Stuttgart at University of Stuttgart, led by Professor Achim Menges. I'm mainly focusing on research in robotic fabrication of wood constructions.
My name is Theo Spiropoulos of Minima Forms.
And I'm Steven Spiropoulos of Minima Forms.
And we set up Minima Forms in 2002, a bit of a family business to explore new ways of thinking about communication within architecture and design. The studio has had an approach that primarily was experimental, really trying to pursue an active engagement with space as a medium that was more transdisciplinary. Stephen is an interaction designer, I've been trained as an architect, and we operate out of London and New York.
My name is Tom Falders, and I run Falders Studio. We're in the San Francisco Bay Area. The office or studio is in Oakland. And I am a professor at California College of the Arts in San Francisco, otherwise known as CCA.
I think architecture today is a practice that should and must bridge with other disciplines and connect with the needs of contemporary society. Whereas before architecture was the solely decision of a designer, I think today it needs to be more intrinsic to whatever is happening in the actual context of a society, trying to connect to the new economy and trying also to solve the issues of the new existential crisis.
So for me, architecture is this perfect synthesis between many of my interests in both the natural world and kind of the more fabricated world. And it blends issues of course, engineering, arts, culture, together, materiality, into this amazing hybrid.
I think it's more like on a higher level of how you relate to your surrounding and how you react to your surrounding.
That's not so interesting just to answer a question with a question. But I suppose my point is, if we're looking at the boundaries of architecture, what is architecture? Then it becomes always expanding, and that's where we're looking at new fields, new cultural ways of living in cities, and being together, and how architecture can be manifested with that.
My installation in Archilab is the one that actually proposes new directions to the so-called parametrism. As a matter of fact, we start finding, as a young practice, experimental practice based in Europe, specifically in Paris, to find new ways to produce our projects, but not necessarily relying in the specificness of the 3D printing. Rather, finding new ways of manufacturing and elaborating our own designs. The important thing about the installation people need to know is that the digital realm is not the outcome, but rather the outset.
We presented a research on mathematics of certain, let's say, electromagnetic fields, or a kind of mathematics covering certain physics or physical processes that are also organizing structure, organizing matter, or building blocks of architecture. So it was a very nice experience in 2008, and then 2009 was our solo exhibition at the FRAC. And lots of examples of our work from that period stayed in a permanent collection of both Pompidou and FRAC, and they're being exhibited in this exhibition.
I have 3 projects in the exhibition. The main one being the permanent installation, new P-wall. And for me, the relationship to nature in that project is my interest in the self-organization of form and matter. So in this project, I have certain control over some of the inputs into the system, but really the form emerges out of the self-organization of the 2 materials in the system, the elasticity of the fabric and the mass of the liquid plaster slurry. So these 2 forces, kind of weight and elasticity, working back and forth against each other, produces the overall form in the system.
Our institute and the work of Achim Menges, we are trying to explore architectural design or new ways of architecture design in 2 different ways. One way is through computational design methods. We are trying to change the way architecture is being designed. We're trying to change the design process, and we're trying to include through computational design all different fields of expertise of basically engineering, material science, and even biology. And on the other way, we are working with computer-aided manufacturing processes, especially robotic fabrication, and these fabrication or manufacturing methods enable us to really build what we can design as well. So we are really getting into a more naturalized architectural process and more naturalized architecture, I think.
Within the Archilab framework, we've had the opportunity to show 2 projects. One was a generative robotic installation that we are calling Petting Zoo. This is an installation in which the general public is allowed to engage with these lifelike animalistic creatures, developing a very participatory and engaged approach with inanimate objects that are kinetic, illuminative, unaudible. The other project that we've been developing as well is trying to explore textiles within architecture. We have a project called Softcast, which we're showing some prototypes, which is really trying to explore textiles within architecture and the ability to explore material computation and phase change within a sort of active environment. So developing a kind of deployable architecture that you could take with yourself and to move from stages of ephemerality into things that could actually be semi-permanent. You know, the Petting Zoo is basically a system that we've developed which is working within a certain construct of thinking about a certain form of artificial intelligence. We designed 3 robotic pets as creatures that had certain capacities to engage the general public. They sort of work by having their own sort of vision system. They're able to acknowledge gestures of different activities, and each participant is actually coded in a way so that the system itself is able to recognize and over time establish engaged relationships with participants. Participants play a very active role. They're performers within the system, and over time we are trying to use the installation to think about an environment for architecture in which the system and the people are actually engaged in a continuous dialogue and conversation.
We have 2 projects here. The first one is called Geotube Tower, and the second project is called Bryophyte Building. These are both speculative projects about or around a question, can we grow architecture? With the Geotube Tower, this is a project that we've been working off and on over the past couple of years, and did a whole bunch of new work for the exhibition here as well. And this is a proposal for not growing the entire building per se, but a large presence of the building, which would be it's a 43-story tower. And it's building skin. It's highly visible urban surface or surfaces would accrue over time through crystallization through very, very simple processes of salt growth. So in this case, we're using organic processes as being inorganic matter. And I find that fascinating because we tend to see environmental work as somehow needing to have vegetal matter. On the bryophyte building, in this case, we're also looking at growth, but this one's a little bit more literal, really. And if the facade of the building was continually kept moist, the building proposal would attract whatever happens to be in the air, in this case bryophyte or moss spores, and on their own, if you will, on its own terms, these start to grow. So we don't seed them. And it's a very different take on kind of a green surface, one that is more like weeds than a cultivated grass.